Good morning, everyone. We will be having our GCD meeting starting in 5 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us. We all look forward to your participation on our meeting. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me via the chat box. Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the Gulf Coast Economic Development District July 10th quarterly meeting. Thank you all for joining us. I ask that everyone mute themselves locally so we don't get any feedback on the call. I have unmuted you so you're able to participate.
Josh, can you hear me?
Hello, Chair Rozelle. Yes, sir, I can hear you.
I cannot hear you.
You cannot hear me. Can anyone else hear me? I would like to look to the chat box.
I can hear you.
I can hear you, Josh.
I can hear you.
I can hear you,
Great,
Josh.
thank you.
I can hear you, Josh.
Well, poor Judge Rozelle is having some issues, so we are going to give him a minute to get squared away. Thank you all for joining the call this morning. In looking over the participants, Judge Rozelle, we have a quorum, and we are ready to proceed with the meeting when you're ready to call it to order.
Josh, can you hear me? Nod your
Yes,
head.
sir. Can everyone hear Judge Rozelle?
Yes.
I can. This is Gary.
Yes.
Thank you, Gary.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Right, Judge Rozelle.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Just nod your head, Josh.
Ready for you?
Josh, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Everyone can hear you, Judge
Okay.
Rozelle.
Nodding your head that you can hear me. I cannot hear you. I've got computer audio on. I'm seeing Gulf Coast Economic Development District quarterly meeting. Are we going to have audio from you?
Sir, what?
Can you see a message if I type it to you?
Yes, sir.
You're getting blurry again. Can you still hear me? Gosh, I'm checking everything. Everything looks like it's where it's supposed to be.
Josh, this is Cheryl. I in the chat, hopefully everybody can see it. There's
Has
a
the meeting
comment
started?
marker. There is a call
Okay.
in box.
This is going to be a new one for all of us, probably. I'm assuming everyone can hear me. Josh, can you still hear me? Okay. Let's call our meeting to order. I don't know what to say about welcome remarks with what we've all been through the last few months, and it looks like it's going to stay with us for a little while. I would say I hope everyone is safe, taking precautions, washing your hands, using lotion afterwards so your skin doesn't come off. I believe we can go into roll call at this point. What I'd like to do is when I call your name, this is going to be kind of up to you, Josh. You're faded in and out on my computer, but As I call your name, just say here. And if we miss anybody, Josh, I'll let you kind of be watching that. Of course, I am here. Marlon Mitchell, Vince Yoakum, Michael Ferdinand,
Present.
Robert Jackson, Andrew Van Chow,
Here.
Garrett McLeod,
Here.
Dane Carlson,
Here.
Danielle Schreiner,
Here.
Frank Jordan, Wendell Knoll,
Here.
BJ Simon, Jessica Russell, Chad Odom, Annie Yang, Gary Bassinger,
Here.
Gil Staley, Diana Grovey, Chad Burke,
Here.
Jimmy Henry, John Isom,
Here.
and Mike Walker. I may be in error. I think there may be a couple of those that have been replaced, not for sure. Josh, if we've missed any, can you, if everyone else can hear you, can you check, ask for those people?
Yes, sir. We're able to see those attendees who are participating in the attendees log, and we have taken note of who is attending. Thank you for calling roll, though, sir.
Judge, can you hear anybody else, or
Okay.
is Josh the only person you're not hearing?
Let's go to action item number 3, approved minutes of April 10th, 2020 GCEDD board meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve? Just nod, Josh, when we get one. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Let's do it this way. I'm going to call first those that are not in approval. If you're not in approval, say not at this point. If we don't hear anyone, then I'll assume that motion, everyone else is in favor, and we will approve. So I'm going to assume, Josh, by your nod, that we do have approval of our minutes. Action item number 4, approve financial reports, which would include our annual financial statement, our audit, our revolving loan fund financial report, and our district financial report. Josh, I'll turn this over to you at this point. And before you start, should we be hearing you? Okay, I'm going to keep, while you're giving that, let me know when we're done, and I'm going to try to figure out why I can't get sound right now.
All right. Thank you so much, Judge Rizzo. I
And we'll finish
apologize.
this action item.
I apologize for the technical issues that we're experiencing. We are going to go ahead and approve, or I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Nancy, our CFO with the Houston-Galveston Area Council, to go ahead and discuss our annual audit. I'm looking for her in the attendees log right now.
Can you hear me, Josh?
Yes, Nancy, I can hear you.
Okay. The audit report was submitted to you. Do you have a copy of that to display?
Yes, I'm giving you this. I'm trying to give you the screen to share.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's not giving me the option. I apologize.
Yeah.
Everyone should have received that document and the email on Wednesday, and I will attempt to pull it up now.
Okay, I will talk about the reports in the absence of being able to display them because I don't have the ability to display it. But what I will tell you, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk to you this morning, we are presenting the financial status reports and the audit report for the Gulf Coast Economic Development District. To give you some background, the district is included as a component unit for H-GAC's annual financial report. And so it is necessary for us to come to you and explain to you that we did have the district's funds audited as part of the scope of that audit. We are pleased to announce that our auditors BKD gave us an unqualified, unmodified opinion. That's the highest opinion you can get on financial statements. And that the Gulf Coast Economic Development District did have their financial statements included in that scope. And so to give you some background on what those financial statements said, since I can't display them, I'll just have to tell you what they say. They were sent out to you. The assets for the district far exceed their liabilities. They have about $1.6 million in assets and only $21,000 of liabilities at the end of the year. Much of the remaining funds of the district are in the revolving loan fund that has been ongoing for some time. During the year, the district had about $39,000 of net increase to their fund balance, ending the year at about 1.639 in fund balance available to the district. Much of these funds are restricted for use with respect to the requirements of the EDA grant that the district receives. The auditors also, as part of the requirement under the Single Audit Act, are required to perform tests of compliance with our grants. And they did so on the Gulf Coast Economic Development District's grant. They gave us an unmodified opinion on that as well, stating that we had adequate internal control and that they found no instances of non-compliance with our grant. So to sum it up, we had the best report you can get from an auditor on the financial statements of the Gulf Coast Economic Development District. And it is my job to let you know that we finished 2019 in fine fashion. I'll be glad to answer any questions on this report before I talk about current conditions. Any questions? We do need an action to approve the audit report. This report was approved by H-GAC's board in June, and so we are asking for your acceptance of this report today.
Do we have a motion to approve the audit report?
I'll make that motion. This is Danielle Shiner.
I'll second.
Thank you, Danielle. Who has the second?
Andrew Van Chel.
Thank you, Andrew. If you are voting, we're going to go and do the negative just because of the format of this meeting. So if you are against approving the audited financial report, please speak now. Thank you so much, everyone. The audited financial report is accepted. The section action item for the approved financial report is the district financial report. Do we have any questions on the district financial report?
Hey, Josh, just a real quick.
Yes, sir.
It looks like there've been a couple of write-offs, and when you add it all up, it looks like about 11% of the funds that are available. What concerns do we have about that kind of impact and the potential for more write-offs going forward because of COVID-19?
Absolutely. We'll let Isaac speak to the RLF financial report, but just in general, we've been in contact with the EDA regarding our write-off. They are understanding and we are below the national average in terms of write-offs for the revolving loan fund as they target loans that are not commercially viable. So it's understandable our percentage of write-offs. We are actually anticipating fewer write-offs moving forward, given the portfolio that we're hoping to build with our recapitalization of the RLF fund that we have applied for with the EDA. So with that, I'm going to ask for approval of the district financial reports. Do I have someone? Would anyone like to vote for approval on the district financial report?
John Isom, I move for approval.
Mike Ferdinand, second.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Andrew. And with that, I am going to say, does anyone vote against approving the district financial report? Hearing no one, I'm going to state that we have approved the district financial report. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Isaac Perez to discuss the RLF fund further.
Josh, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, Chairman Roselle. Can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Great. Thank you so much, Chairman Roselle.
With an
Chairman
echo.
Roselle, we're having Isaac Perez speak to our RLF financial report currently.
All right, thank you, Josh. I appreciate the note. I think you explained the write-offs perfectly in the current situation. The only thing that I would like to definitely report on is we had 3 loan approvals in the month of June. We took those to our loan committee and got them approved. The total sum of that is right around $500,000. The caveat to that is one of the loans made up the bulk of it, of around $190,000, and that one is probably not going to accept the loan offer. But we do have the other 2, so totaling around $200,000 that we are expecting to close on, and we are currently going through that closing process, and we hope to have those closed soon. In addition to those 2, we do have further activity on that front. We have approximately 9 applicants who have been going through the pipeline, and they are now in the process of submitting their supporting documentations, one of which has already submitted their documentation, and we're in the process of reviewing them. So in addition to this just being general loan activity that we're very excited about, our approach to these loans have been, I think, tie in with what Josh was saying as far as really targeting folks who, of course, the mission of the RLF is to support businesses who might not be able to receive any type of credit from your traditional lender. But we were able to secure these loans, and we do believe that these businesses are going to be viable, and they are established businesses. They're not brand new. They've been in business for over a year, some of them over 5 years. And so we're very confident and excited to have these loans in our books to kind of further strengthen our portfolio.
Thank you, Isaac. I wanted to mention that we have also applied with the Economic Development Administration for a non-competitive grant for $1.63 million to recapitalize our RLF funds to lend out to COVID impacted borrowers. So we will have more information regarding that hopefully shortly.
What's the amount of that grant?
1.63 million.
Okay. On these companies that we're writing off, did we get anything left in those to take possession of?
No, those were historically written off, and we tried to retain any sort of collateral that we could at the time.
Okay, I got something else. You said we did not obtain any of the collateral. Keep it. Is that what I heard?
Correct, Judge. We were not able to recoup any collateral
Okay.
from those loans.
I apologize. I'm hearing a lot of background noise. It must be AT&T out here. I don't know.
It's feedback, Judge. You may want to turn down the volume, or if you have some headphones or something, plug those in. That might help.
Yeah, I'll try that. Thank you.
Do we have a motion on the RLF report?
This is Judge Roselle. I'll make motion to approve.
This is Gary Basinger, I second.
Thank you both very much.
Okay,
And with that-
are we at the presentations now, Josh?
That's right. I'm going to attempt to turn over the screen to Jana Holgrens, who's going to become the presenter.
Okay.
Josh, do we have an official vote on the RLF?
Not sure. I thought we did. Did we not vote on the RLF, Josh?
That's a good point. Thank you. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Let's have a vote. If anyone votes not to approve the RLF, please speak now.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. Jana, are you able to present? Am I able to, do you have control of the screen? I'm sorry.
Joshua, good morning. Good morning, everybody. This is Jana Hoagland. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Jana.
Oh, wonderful. I'm just trying to figure out how to share my screen. I can see that you turn it over to me as a presenter, but is there some kind of button that I need to click, or I'm sorry?
Jana, I will go ahead and take back over and
Okay. And you will just change the
tell me
slide.
to advance. All right, Jana.
Okay, you will be able to share my PowerPoint, Joshua?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jana Hoagland. I'm a director of Lone Star College Tumble Community Library, and I would like to thank everybody for having me today at this meeting, and especially thank you, Joshua, and your team for inviting me for hearing about Tomball Innovation Lab, about which I'm very, very much excited to share this morning. It was a great project, a great community engagement project that we did in Tomball, which is in northwest of Houston, a wonderful town that we're part of, and we are happy to represent today at this meeting as well. And also, I would like to let you know that I have Dr. Leanne Knott, president of Lone Star College Tomball, with me today, and I'm very excited that she was able to join me as well. Joshua, are you ready to start my PowerPoint?
I think I'm pressing play, and are you able to see my screen currently, everyone?
We're seeing agenda.
Yeah,
Okay. Apologize.
Well, while Joshua putting my PowerPoint on the screen, I just would like to say a few words about our library. Lone Star College Tumble Community Library is a joint library. It's a very unique library. We serve both public and academia, and Lone Star College Tumble faculty, staff, and students. So this is a very unique format of the library. There are just a few in the nation that serve both customer bases, and this is very, very beneficial for us to have this format. Okay, thank you so much, Joshua. I can see now my screen. Okay, so here, that's what I was just talking about, our library. This is the photograph that you see. This is our beautiful 72,000 square foot facility. And this is just a small portion of it, but all the action is happening behind these beautiful glass walls. Oops. I've got white screen now.
Oh, goodness. I'm sorry, Jana.
That's okay. Well, I'm very excited to talk about Tomball Innovation Lab, about this wonderful project, and share the experience with you today. Thank you for inviting me. I will just say a few words about how the whole project has started. Is, library, we offer a lot of different services to our community, and computer classes are, free computer classes are one of the major services that we offer. But we noticed that our computer classes, and we had a wonderful computer class, a very good sized space filled with a lot of computers, it was really underutilized. And we started researching how better we can use that space, the lab, or maybe there is something else that we can do about it. And while we were researching that, we found out that makerspace can be an option, and we started looking into that direction. And while we started looking and researching and talking to our customers, talking to our organizations, we actually, it took us actually into a much bigger project that we expected. And we, after our research, probably we did several months, and it was changed multiple times after we spoke with our customers and people who wanted to use it. We presented our proposal to Dr. Knott, Lone Star College Tumble president, and our executive director, Edward Melton of Harris County Public Library, and they were extremely supportive. And that's how it all started in the beginning of 2018. And ever since, we were preparing the Tomball Innovation Lab, a transitional period that included several phases. And as we went with this project, it actually became not only the project of Lone Star College Tomball and Harris County Public Library. We were supported by the Precinct 4 Harris County. We actually had other partners joining us on this initiative. Can everybody see the screen? Because Joshua, I see only white screen.
No, I'm sorry. Somehow it's not allowing me to share my screen right now. I apologize. I'm trying to work to resolve it.
Okay. So besides the main founding partners, as I mentioned, Lone Star College Tomball, Harris County Public Library, and the Precinct 4, we were also joined by our great partners, our Tomball stakeholders. It's Greater Tomball Area Chamber of Commerce, City of Tomball, Tomball ISD, Tomball Economic Development Corporation, HCA Houston Healthcare Tomball. And we had meetings, we had multiple conversations, discussions about how we want to go about it. The thing is that we, the makerspace movement is becoming, or has become actually very popular and very major in the libraries world, in the library profession. And the way we were thinking in the beginning, okay, we have this idea, it's great, we can just use somebody else's experience, and but we wanted to make it specifically helpful for Tomball and for our citizens who use the library. And that's why we decided to go about engaging our community, a very high level of engagement, constant interaction with our customers and partners. And yes, we understood it was taking us longer, but in the end, we were able to Joshua, I don't know why I started having this. Is it better now? Is it better now?
There was somebody that was unmuted. I muted them. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so yes, we just wanted to do something that will be really specifically beneficial for our greater Tomball area. And the interesting part of this was something that we really had as initial plan developed into some plan that we did not expect, some equipment that we originally think Makerspace would have. Based on our conversation with our customers and partners, we added equipment that we did not even plan or did not even think about. So this was a wonderful impact of the community engagement. Joshua, if we can go to slide number 2. Joshua, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can you go to slide number 4? I'm sorry, the next one on my PowerPoint. It will be second on my PowerPoint. And currently, you can see on the slide that is being displayed right now. As I said, it's a photo of our library, and it's also the logo of Tomball Innovation Lab. Actually, as part of our community engagement project, and that we were, while we were preparing an opening, Tomball Innovation Lab, we also, a great idea came up from one of our partners is to, why don't we have a logo? And the logo could be developed by our community. So we opened an open contest for our community members. Anybody could participate. There was no age limit. And we received lots of great submissions. And this was the winner, who's Michelle Patton with Tomball ISD. Came up with this beautiful logo that basically represents collaboration, ideas, innovations, working together on different projects. And also it covers like the major colors of the partners that happen to share similar colors, like red, blue, yellow, white. So that was very, very exciting. And okay, Joshua, can we go to the next slide? Joshua, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
we're at the grand opening slide.
Okay, yes, if you can show yes, like this is the slide I was talking about, and there are some logos are missing for some reason, but these are the partners that I was talking about that join us, and we are working together on making this project even better. Tomball Innovation Lab is an ongoing project. Of course, unfortunately, we are not open at this time. The library is closed, the campus is closed, and we hope that when we return, we will continue open our services. And Joshua, can we go to the next slide?
We're on the tools to foster your spark. We're on the tools to foster your spark slide.
Oh, really? I still have those with Drive. Oops. Okay. Can we go back? Do you mind going back to grand opening?
Sure.
If you can see. Okay. And you just tell me, because I guess, I don't know, my screen just show one, like a third slide. So yeah, yes, this one, grand opening. And the grand opening of the Innovation Lab took place on January 28, 2020. So we were lucky to actually open our lab before everything with the virus situation happened. And we had a very successful first month. Unfortunately, we were able to function February and a couple of weeks in March, but we were extremely busy. Here you can see some pictures in the left hand side top corner is Michelle Patton, who won the contest for the community logo for the Innovation Lab. And here you can see some of our equipment and picture from the grand opening. This was a wonderful celebration. We had our we had over 300 people came to celebrate with us. We had all our main partners and stakeholders. In this picture, you can see myself, Dr. Nat, also the Chamber of Commerce. We actually were recognized by our Congressman Michael McCall, from our Commissioner Jack Kegel. We have representatives here in the picture from the city, Houston, HCA Houston Healthcare at Tumble. And you also can see here our students and our customers from Tumble as well. So this was a one beautiful community celebration, and we were very, very proud to open. We received lots of requests. We also received a lot of attention from our media. Many different articles were published. We also gave a lot of interviews, and so we were very, very excited. That's why a lot of people knew about it, and we had constant requests about usage of our Innovation Lab. Can we go to the next slide, Joshua? And I guess I'm probably behind. So do you have the tools to foster your Spark slide right now?
I do. I hope the rest of the audience can see it. I seem to be having broadband issues. I apologize.
Well,
I'm
that's
still seeing
okay.
grand opening.
Okay, me too. Okay. Well, so what we have, there are, like, as I said, we had a regional plan that would be like a standard list of equipment that you usually would have in the makerspace. And actually, I forgot to mention, we plan to open it up as a makerspace area. But as we progressed in our research and working with the customers, with our organizations and our partners, the project turned into a broader aspect, a broader concept, which we decided to call Innovation Lab, Tomball Innovation Lab. And the reason behind this is that we want to, the Innovation Lab encompasses not only the makerspace equipment and something that you can do using the makerspace, it's much broader. It's basically implementing any creative idea, any project that you would like to, that you have in your mind and you would like to put it in reality. Collaborative work doesn't have to be only something that you create with your hands by using the equipment, but also spark an idea in some presentations, let's say video recordings or anything that is wider just to use a makerspace equipment. That's why anything basically that will take us into an innovative path and direction, that's why we decided to make it an innovation lab, because it can be anything. And as we discussed, it's also, okay, healthy lifestyle. What is there is innovative, how we can implement those practices. What if we go into graphic design, what is innovation there? What if we do some, proposals for creating a part and using a 3D printer? So this is multiple initiatives and projects that can be going under the umbrella of Innovation Lab. One thing is that was very interesting is sewing class. We were asked to add sewing machine, and the community group who joined us to work under the Innovation Labs, because they wanted to create some costumes and teach the children to how to sew. So that was really interesting to see how actually how the Innovation Lab and our customers and partners will take us further in our development. So if you can see here some of our equipment that we added, it's 3D printers. We have a larger size, smaller size that is mobile, that we can actually take outside of the lab and go to some presentation that makes us mobile and actually can create our Tomball Innovation Lab on the go. That is also an idea that we were exploring. You can see in here what's under, like you can see Muse. It's kind of like an open box. It's our high capacity laser cutter. And that is one of, these are two very, the two items that are highly were used when we were opened by our customers. We also have the next one is the laser, is the vinyl cutter. We also have some equipment pieces for children. The Innovation Lab is also designed to be open and used by different ages, from like preschool age and no limit. And you can see here it's Lego robotics, some programming tools. We have also another thing that came from our partners and customers. It's the virtual reality. This is another aspect that we were really researching and including with our faculty members and presenting some community meetings, and how we can use the virtual reality in the classroom, how we can serve the public by providing some services by using virtual reality. There were some really interesting discussions that were taking place, and we hope that when we come back, we will be able to implement all those innovative projects. Can we go back? Can we go to the next slide, Joshua?
Yes, we're moving to the next slide.
Okay, so the next slide is called Interaction for Growth, and basically here is an example of what you can do with some of the equipment that we have in the lab. We also have Dremel Micro that you can create some wonderful works on wood. We have like 3D printers where you can create multiple 3D objects. We also have a 3D scanner where you can actually already have an object and you put it on the scanner, it will scan, it will create a file, and then it will send to a 3D printer to print that model, the 3D model. 3D printers are usually also used to create some prototypes, some new innovative tools and other opportunities. And then also, if you can see on the right side, like this wood carving, it also can be done on our laser cutter, which is like, it's doing a great job. We also have soldering iron, makey kits, and other equipment. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. Well, the next slide is learning exercise, and it's a sample of the schedule of the events that we had in February. This is the actual schedule of the events, just to give you idea how the lab functioned. And to start with, we offered some computer classes. We offered multiple tours. We offered, to begin with, we wanted to orient our customers and those who use the lab, to orient them and teach them how to use the equipment. You know, the laser cutter, you need to teach the people how to use it and give them like a certification that they can use it. So that's why, like, for the first several months, we were planning on highly offering the orientations and training, so people then can schedule one-on-one sessions and come and utilize the equipment that they want to. So this is just for you to look at what we did in February. We can go to the next slide. And this basically represents here like the explanation of different type of services and classes that we had. Basically, orientation that I just said, it's trainings on how to use equipment. Tours, we requested lots of we received lots of requests for touring the lab from different groups, from schools, from homeschooling groups, also from some local organizations. And this is basically to show what we have and plan, because we can also adjust to a person, like we can offer the services for a person, so the person can decide what can be done and how this lab can be helpful. One-on-one sessions, once people already determined what they want, what kind of equipment they're interested in, we will plan and one-on-one sessions, and those were not included on the calendar. And we were receiving quite a good amount of that. People were using laser cutter, they're using 3D printer, were using a vinyl cutter very much heavily. And you can see here, contact Lloyd Hune. He is a coordinator of our innovation lab and extremely helpful and knowledgeable of what we have to open. And another format that we offered is an open lab, where basically we just keep the lab open. We have the staff attending there, and people will just come and they could utilize the equipment, what's in the lab, at the time when the lab was taking place. So this is just to let you know what kind of format of the services we had. And can we go to the next slide? So what kind of benefits for the community and for your company, for businesses? Of course, it's an open access to new technologies. Tomball Innovation Lab, we provide access to all our equipment to patrons and partners, and it is at no cost. The smallest cost that could be, it's basically pay for the materials. And we have the informed staff who can help and train and teach. And Tomball Innovation Lab, you will expand your offerings that you couldn't find before, or you can pay for at maybe under different services somewhere else. Can we go to the next slide? And as I said, innovation labs, they are places for creation, idea exploration, and learning. And we hope to foster this lifetime learning and through our knowledgeable staff and share this knowledge. What we were getting requests and what we were actually started talking on in a time when we were able to serve within a month and a half, it's some startup businesses, people who are planning to open business, that they were thinking about, okay, I would like to do some kind of marketing. Can I just utilize your laser cutter or 3D printer and develop some kind of a brochure? We had a person who came and used our laser cutter to create some marketing pieces from that made out of wood, and he wanted to present it actually to his administration as an idea. So it's actually visual, not only something on paper, but something that you can actually look at and see what it's going to look like. And this is something that overall the Makerspaces Innovation Labs, it's being like 3D printers are used for creating prototypes and kind of finished products without the need to drastically invest in the equipment. You use this 3D printer, okay, you have this tool or something that you want to implement, something new, and you create it in the innovation lab, basically no cost to you, and then you can try to move forward with your idea to implement it. And we also, of course, would like to present our community with a technology that not everybody can afford to place in the house or purchase, and that's why we wanted to put it in the public library also, because it's open to anybody. It's not only open for, and we know that some organizations place innovation labs in their buildings, but they're only open for those who, either pay for the services or for their staff. So we can go to the next slide. And this is just some examples that was done by those who visited our lab in February and March. So prototyping, as I said, with 3D printing, vinyl cutting decals locally, the Tomball Innovation Lab picture that we just created it ourselves. We try to make everything what we had with the Innovation Lab tool, so we can show this is what you can create. Precision laser cutting, you can come to the innovation lab and you can create an award. You can do the laser cutting on the metal, on the glass, on plastic, and create basically an award without taking and possibly spending money on that. And of course, we want a place to create. We wanted a place to innovate and collaborate and just create something new and move forward and engage our community, of course. Joshua, we can go to the next slide. And these are just some pictures of the activities. As you said, we were quite busy in the February and a portion of March that we were open. You can see here there are some orientation sessions, there are some practice sessions that were happening, and you can see this is adults, these are also teens. We also had some open sessions for children as well with their parents. So it was very, very interesting. And you can see here a badge, Grow with Google, 2020 Grow with Google High Impact Partner. This is actually, I wanted to put it in here just to share with you that even though we're closed and we're not available to physically access our innovation lab, but we're trying to still be innovative and find a way to offer our community different services. So in March, actually, I think, no, it was in April, May, we partnered with Google through Grow with Google initiative to bring different webinars to our community provided by the Google trainers about different digital skills using different tools. And that was offered under, and it's being offered right now, will be in July and August under the Innovation Lab as well. So we're going Innovation Lab digital. We're also recording some videos as well, pre-recordings on how to use some tools, basic tools that we have in Innovation Lab, just to show our customers what they can use and possibly use them in future for any ideas. Can we go to the next slide? And we are always looking for opportunities to expand and for partners who wish to help us to expand the offerings at the Tomball Innovation Lab. If any one of you are interested in helping us or working with us, or if you have any more questions after today's sessions, again, my name is Jana Hoagland, and this is my email. I will be more than happy to have any further communications, discussions. I know there is a lot to share, and it's just we don't have time, and I could speak for a long time. But I'm
thank you so much for presenting to us, and we think it's a very innovative way to get technology in entrepreneurs' hands. And please, GCED board, if you have any questions or you would like to see an opportunity in your area such as this, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, myself, or Jana especially. Thank you so much, Jana.
Thank you, and sorry for taking longer time.
I apologize for our technology issues.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we need the next presenter? Is it Josh, Regional Unemployment and Gulf Coast Workforce Board?
Yes, we are going to have Parker Harvey, and we are also going to have Mike Temple talk about our unemployment and in relations to COVID-19.
Great. First and foremost, Josh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Let's see. Do we have any way for me to be able to share my screen, or will you have to operate it from there?
We are going to have Wendy is pulling it up right now.
We can have him share his screen. Give me a second. I'm sorry, what's your name again?
First name is Parker, last name is Harvey.
Thank you, Wendy. Again, board, I apologize for my technology issues.
Excellent. All right. All right. Can everyone see my screen and the title card right now? Saying Labor Market Update, July 10th, 2020.
Looks good, Parker.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to attempt to minimize the sidebar here so I have a little bit more room to see, and we will get started. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Parker Harvey. For those of you who don't know me, but there are a lot of familiar names on the call this morning, so I'm really pleased to see. I'm the principal economist for the Gulf Coast Workforce Board and Workforce Solutions, which together make up the public workforce system for the region. Our colleague and host, Josh Owens, was kind enough to invite myself and my director, Mike Temple, to share with you some insights into the latest developments with our job market. That's what I'll be covering, as well as what we've been doing as a workforce board to respond to the challenges posed by COVID-19. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to cover three things this morning. Our May jobs report that came out a few weeks back. We'll be getting the next jobs report next Friday. We'll talk about unemployment insurance claims and how those have been evolving and what kind of information we're able to derive from them now. And we'll take a brief look at trends in the number of job ads that are active out there in the region and how that's also evolving. So first up, let's talk about employment. So as of May, going from April to May, we actually added almost 74,000 jobs, and that's in a single month. Now, to put that in perspective, that's the largest one-month gain that we've ever had on record in the last 30 years since we've had data on jobs in our region. And that number implies that we've recovered about 1 out of every 5 of the 350,000 jobs we lost between March and April. To further put that 73,800 number in perspective, during a stable, if not growing year economically for Houston, we should add about 60 to 64,000 jobs. So clearly we exceeded that and then some, just to give you an idea of just how incredible of a banner month it was for job growth. And that's consistent with what we saw at the national level for the month of May, as well as June, the numbers that we got last Thursday. Here's a look at what was growing back in May. Leisure and hospitality, where you find your bars, your restaurants, your hotels, obviously had a great month, adding almost 40,000 jobs. That 31% there in the middle represents the percentage of jobs that we've recovered in that sector, considering the losses from April or March and April rather. So about a third of those jobs came back in a single month. Education and health services, mainly healthcare in this case, more than half of those jobs were recovered in a single month. Trade, transport, and utilities, where you find your retail jobs, we got about a third of those back, and construction, about a quarter of those jobs came back in a single month. So these 4 sectors had a particularly good month. Now, unfortunately, there were still sectors that continue to lose jobs. That means they've lost jobs in March, April, and May consecutively. Government was actually the biggest loser in May, with almost 8,000 or over 8,000 jobs lost. And cumulatively, we've lost about 5% of all the government jobs in the region since March. Now, I will note there's some other things going on with government. We'll touch on that here in the next slide. But mining and logging, our core upstream oil and gas part of the economy, for obvious reasons, continues to languish. We've lost about 20% of those jobs total since March. 6,400 jobs rather lost in just for the month. So clearly that sector continues to be under stress. Obviously, oil's now back at 40, which is a vast improvement over negative $40 a barrel. But still, that sector continues to struggle and likely will for the remainder of this year and possibly even longer. Manufacturing, interestingly enough, did not fare quite as poorly as you would imagine, given how closely intertwined it is with mining and logging, particularly the durable goods manufacturing side of parts and equipment portion of manufacturing. But nonetheless, that sector also did not see any rebound in the month of May. Other services, this is where you find your salons, your barber shops, and whatnot. Interestingly enough, this also saw continued losses. Now, there could very well be some estimation problems here. This sector has been notorious for being under or overestimated by TWC / the Bureau of Labor Statistics over the last few years. We know that those businesses were allowed to reopen gradually throughout the month of May and into June. So it's surprising not to see any of that reflected there. So there may be some other issues going on there with the estimation rather than actually what's going on in that sector, because we do know that those sorts of businesses were allowed to reopen, albeit at a reduced capacity. Now, I mentioned that government had some things going on here. So we can break government down into 3 different types, really. You've got your federal government employment, state government, as well as local. And within state, you've got state government education, our public 2- and 4-year colleges. Within local government, you have our local government education services, our public primary and secondary schools. Now, typically in the month of May, you don't see job losses in state and local government because the school year hasn't ended yet. This year, presumably due to COVID-19, we saw those job losses in state and local government education services pull forward by a full month, which is pretty unusual. Now, if you look at federal government typically is a non-entity. We don't see a lot of job growth or loss there. There's not a ton of government employment here in the grand scheme of things compared to state and local. But this May, we should have seen a pretty big bump in federal government for a couple of reasons. We're in the middle of the decennial census, which means that we've got enumerators out there knocking on doors for residences where they haven't received a response to the census survey. Normally, you would have quite a few of those. The last time we had a census, 10,000 of those were hired here locally just for a month, but to go out and conduct the census. This time around, however, we didn't see any of that. In fact, that 100 there is effectively a rounding error, and the growth that we should have seen there didn't materialize. So we really got hit from 2 different angles. It appears that the education job losses that we seasonally see every year got pulled forward by a month, and the federal government employment bump that we should have seen from the census also didn't happen. And the federal government part's actually pretty important because the census is what drives the apportionment in the House of Representatives, as well as determining funding distribution across states. And the deadlines for those numbers to be submitted to the president have now been pushed back well into 2021. So the implications there are actually pretty significant. And I know that the census is still having challenges getting the response rate for our region up to an acceptable level. And some of you, if you get their emails reminding you to do that, you probably see them daily, if not hourly, frankly. And these are just the 3 points I just made here on the slide. Now let's talk about the unemployment rate for the region. So for May, our unemployment rate sat at 13.9%, not seasonally adjusted. Here's a look back at the last couple of months to put that number in perspective. February, arguably, which seems like a lifetime ago, things were going pretty well. 3.9%, 135,000 people unemployed. That number, that 135,000 was pretty normal throughout all of 2019. We were somewhere in that range for the better part of all of last year. We get to March, that number then jumps up to 190,000 individuals, 5.5%. And then April, obviously, is when the full effects of COVID finally hit. We end up approaching 450,000 plus individuals unemployed and an unemployment rate of 14.3%, a new all-time high. As we get to May, however, we see the unemployment rate drop a bit. You'll also notice that the number of people who are unemployed actually rose slightly by about 8,300. Well, so how is that possible? How do we have more people unemployed and the rate falls? Well, 129,000 individuals became employed from April to May. So it managed to offset the new people becoming unemployed, at least within this survey, and managed to drive down the unemployment rate slightly. So a lot of moving parts going on here, but I will note that it was rather surprising to see the rate drop from 14.3 to 13.9. At the national level, the professional forecasters out there, hundreds of them were expecting the national unemployment rate to jump from about 14% to about 19%. The national rate fell, our rate fell here as well. I was anticipating an unemployment rate for our region in May of about 19%. Clearly, that didn't happen. So it does appear that the reopening process that began in early May really started to show up in the numbers fairly quickly, which again is surprising, but that's apparently what happened. And so that's what we're operating under for the time being. Here's just a quick look back at where our unemployment rate's been over the last 3 decades or so. You can see back there towards maybe the middle right of the screen, the highest it ever got during the Great Recession was under 9%, and clearly we've surpassed that and then some. I'll also note for those of you who haven't happened to see the articles on it, the National Bureau of Economic Research, the official arbiter of recessions for the US, has declared us in a recession as of February rather, if you're looking at it on a monthly basis. If you're looking at it on a quarterly basis, the recession actually started in the 4th quarter of 2019. So that's all I want to highlight here. Now let's talk about what's going on regionally. Here's a look at our 13 county region that we're responsible for as a workforce board. You can see the rates tend to be a bit higher on the eastern half of the region. Obviously, Matagorda down there in the south is a bit of an exception. But what we're really seeing here is a reversion back to longer term normal trends that we see in unemployment rates, namely that Matagorda and Liberty counties have the highest unemployment rates in the region. And that's typically been the case regardless of what the economy in the region's been doing over the last 30 years. So even when times are good, Matagorda and Liberty typically happen to have rates that are higher than the rest of the region. And that's what we are seeing here. 80% of the time, it's been Matagorda with the highest. That other 20% of the time when it's not, tends to be Liberty. And that's actually what we are seeing here. You can see Liberty's at 15.5 versus Matagorda, they're at 15.3. Now, if you were to look at the same chart a month ago, what you would have seen is that Galveston County had the highest unemployment rate in our region. And that was only the second time that that's ever happened in the last 30 years. And it really does speak to the impacts of COVID and shutdown on the tourism industry. You've also got quite a bit of healthcare. You've got obviously retail and other things that support leisure and hospitality type industry. So that county definitely took the brunt of it, but it also saw a pretty significant bounce back, all things considered, with May's numbers. So we are seeing a reversion back to more normal things here. The only other things I want to point out here, Colorado and Matagorda counties still have yet to exceed their previous all-time high unemployment rates. All of our other counties have broken their records that were typically set back during the Great Recession, but these 2 counties have not. Matagorda had pretty high rates back in the early 90s for reasons I'm not clear on. Colorado has traditionally had the lowest rate in our region over the last 30 years or so, and it still has not exceeded the highs that it saw back during the Great Recession. So just a couple of things I wanted to point out there. Now, one other thing before we move on to talking about the cities. Now, despite the fact that the unemployment rate for our region did fall to 13.9%, 5 of our counties still saw their rates go up from April to May, and those are the ones that are highlighted in blue. Now, because there are peripheral counties that tend to have lower population density overall, they didn't move the number, or they move the needle so much, but we are seeing rates go up at the peripheries for the time being. And I believe Colorado, out of these 5, actually saw the largest percentage point increase from April to May. So certainly something to keep an eye on. Now, here's a look at our cities. Now, we only have unemployment rates for 17 cities out of our region, and we have well over 100 plus, maybe even more cities in the region, but we only have data on 17 of them for the unemployment rate. Typically, a city has to have a population of around 50,000 before BLS and TBC will publish numbers for it. And so here are the ones that we have data for. And you'll notice if you look there at the key on the legend on the left side, Baytown, highest unemployment rate in our region for cities, nearly 24%, a number that is just unprecedented. However, know that Baytown has traditionally had the highest rate in the region, regardless of what the economy is doing. And it's a function of the construction jobs that are related to the chemical plants, the ship channel and whatnot. And there's just a lot of cycling of workers in and out of employment around those industries. It's just a feature of how that industry and how that region works. Granted, that number is still somewhat alarming, but it's it's consistent with what is normal regardless of what's going on in the economy there, if that's any solace. Only other things I want to point out here, 2 of our cities saw their rates go up from April to May, whereas everyone else's fell slightly. And those 2 are Baytown, which saw its rate go up, as well as Lake Jackson in the south there. Now, let's talk a little bit about UI claims. We've been watching these for a while, and here's what it looks like week by week by week, going back to early March when things really got started with COVID. What we find is that things are trending in the right direction. UI claims are now down about 70% from where they were in early April, so that's certainly a good sign. However, they do remain quite elevated from where they were pre-COVID at roughly about 4 to maybe 5 times higher than where they should be. Now, obviously, in the last couple of weeks, we've started pulling back on the reopening process. I think restaurants are now back to 50% capacity, and I believe bars are now closed as well. So we may be seeing that number we see there, the far right for June 20th, an uptick in the number of UI claims again. So we'll have to wait and see if that trend continues to confirm what we know is actually happening from a policy standpoint, but it does look as though we may have plateaued as far as how low we can drive down claims before we either start to rise or maybe just hold steady around these levels. Now, here's a second way of looking at that same information, but cumulatively over the last couple of months here. And what I've done here is I've tried to align the weeks of unemployment claims with the unemployment rate for that period. So if you look at March, 3 weeks there should have driven that 5.6% unemployment rate. April's claims should have driven that 14.3, our all-time high record unemployment rate throughout the history of all the data that we have. Then we get to May, and as you recall, the unemployment rate went down from April. We still had another 117,000 claims though from April to May. So that means that unemployment rate for May discounted all of those claims, and apparently enough people came back into the workforce that it just completely ignored that phenomenon there. So now it's getting difficult to determine, well, which direction are things going? We know we've had more claims. You can see there in green, we've got about another 77,000 since our May jobs report that came out almost a month ago now. So where do we go from here? That's a great question. Frankly, I don't know. If we look at the national jobs report that came out last Thursday, we could conceivably be looking at an unemployment rate somewhere in, say, maybe 11.5%. That wouldn't surprise me in the least bit. However, again, because of the pullback in the reopening process, that also could change. So really, our unemployment rate could break any one of a couple of different directions at this point. It could go sideways for a while. It might go up. For this next jobs report, I suspect it will probably go down before we'll start to see it potentially rise again. But again, it really depends on the direction the virus takes, although quite clearly the direction it's taking right now is alarming. Last thing I want to touch on, job ads. So this is something I've been watching since the very beginning of COVID really starting to impact the economy. The thought being is that this would be one of the earliest signs that employers are starting to hire again, that they're feeling a little bit more confident about the economy, that consumers are going back out and consuming again. As soon as you start seeing them hiring more, that usually should be a sign of things starting to thaw out. So let's take a look over the last few months here and see what's been going on. Here we have a line chart. The orange line across the top there are the number of job ads online for our region for the year 2019, March to July. The blue line at the bottom, same time frame, March to July, but for this year. And as you can see, the number of job ads that we've had in 2020 has been well below what we had in 2019. Completely understandable. You'll see there, starting from about late April, it starts to trend up a bit, meaning that there's a few more job ads. Things look like they were maybe starting to at least head the right direction. Clearly no chance of catching up with the 2019 numbers, but still heading in the right direction. And then we get to the end of May, and all of a sudden about 1 out of every 5 job ads in our region disappear overnight. The explanations for it aren't terribly satisfying. The gist of it is that there was a mass expiration of job ads in our region that, for whatever reason, have not been recovered or resurrected or reinstated. We saw a little bit of a blip there, but it looks as though those job ads went away and unfortunately don't look like they're coming back. Where that leaves us now, the number of job ads we have out there is about 50% below, we'll say about 46% below where it was a year ago. So clearly things are still very much touch and go with the virus and what it's doing to the economy. Now, with all that said though, if we look at this rather than from a daily standpoint and instead look at it from a month to month standpoint, we get a slightly different picture that's a little bit more inspiring, but not much. Here's a look at all of our major sectors, and on the left you've got the percent change in the number of job ads, 30 days, over 30 days, The right-hand side, you've just got the absolute change. If you look there, there's only a few bars sticking off to the right. Those are the ones where you're seeing an increase. And namely, transportation warehousing has been the winner here. In percentage terms, 16.3%, absolute terms, an increase of 1,100 job ads, 30 days over 30 days. And that would make sense. After all, if you've got businesses reopening, you need more inventory, you need more deliveries, you need more drivers, you need more warehouse space, stocking, the whole 9 yards. The entire distribution supply chain turns on again effectively once businesses reopen. And that is, I think, what you're seeing here. Unfortunately, though, our other sectors are not faring quite as well. And in all likelihood, the reason why they're all pointing off to the left there is because of that drop off in job ads that we saw towards the end of May. And that's what's affecting what's going on here. If you could see the same chart just a couple of weeks earlier, you would have seen nearly all the lines pointing off to the right, meaning that there had been an uptick in job ads and therefore presumably hiring across every major sector. Unfortunately, that trend has now reversed, and this is what we're seeing at the moment. This is something to continue watching for, but it's certainly concerning given the fact that we were starting to make a bit of progress. But again, given what's going on with the virus, we should probably expect there to be some pullback in hiring as a result going forward. So that's really all I have. I apologize for having to go through it pretty quickly there. I kind of want to try to keep us on track, but I'd be more than happy to answer questions for anyone who's on the call here offline after this meeting is over. I thank you all for your attention this morning.
Thank you, Parker.
Parker, that was great. I've received already several requests for your presentation from the audience.
Right.
I will be sure to send this out and along with the recording when we have it up, but that was a wonderful presentation.
Great. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it.
Mike, do you have any comments on what the Gulf Coast Workforce Board is doing to address the unemployment situation in our region?
I do, Josh. Really don't. Not this time. I'm going to request the slides. Does anyone else have questions? Are we ready for our sales tax forecast?
We're going to have Mr. Mike Temple, the director of the Texas Workforce, our Workforce Solutions, talk about what the Texas Workforce Board is doing to address unemployment, or Gulf Coast Workforce Board is doing to address unemployment in the region real quickly. Mike?
Thank you, Josh. Good morning to everybody. I'm going to be real brief in my presentation. I think most of you are aware of the Workforce Board and Workforce Solutions, and you know that we're throughout the region. We have continued to be open, even though we're not seeing customers inside our office. We are seeing them virtually, on the telephone, through email, and every which way we can. There are some 500,000 individuals that we are working directly with who are receiving unemployment insurance, and we're doing our very best to make sure that we're offering them options through hiring events, through access to online learning and virtual professional development if they want it or need it. And I just want to assure all of you that we are open and ready, and should you need us or want to talk to us, please just give us a call. You can always find your local office at wrksolutions.com, and you can always find me and Parker here at the Gulf Coast Workforce Board through the same location. And I apologize, Josh, for being so short, but I know that the group has some other things that they want to talk about. And I just want to also say that if any of you would like to talk to us as a group or individually about projects in your area, please let us know, because we're here to work for you. And one last thing before I say goodbye is, Judge Roselle, it is so nice to be able to be in a meeting with you again. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike, kudos, by the way, very quickly on that training and upskilling that you guys are working with Microsoft and with Coursera. I think that's great work, and I think more people should know about it. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mike? All right, we're going to turn it over to our very own Pramod Samdi to discuss our regional sales tax revenue forecast.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me and can you see my screen?
We sure can. Thank you, Pramod.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Pramod Sambidi. I'm with the Houston-Galveston Area Council. As Parker has mentioned, the impacts of COVID-19 to our region and local economies are widespread and unprecedented. This disruption is different compared to the other recessions we had because this one involves social distancing, stay-home orders, and reduced activity. As a result, it has impacted our local sales, and that in turn has impacted the sales tax revenue for our local taxing jurisdictions. So the Houston-Galveston Area Council is developing tools and data sets that can assist our member governments in navigating the economic impacts. So one service we are providing to our members is a rapid forecast of our sales tax impacts and economic recovery scenarios. So, so let's see what's before COVID-19. So this is, again, so H-GAC is not a taxing entity. So I'm just kind of summarizing the data for all the jurisdictions within our 13-county region. So for example, in fiscal year, so this fiscal year is basically the calendar year from January 1st to December 31st. And the sales tax revenue collected during 2019 was 2.45 billion. And we have assigned a 3% growth rate to the future sales tax revenue. And as you can see, by 2030, in 2030, we expect around 3.39 billion in sales tax revenue. So this is all before COVID-19. And here is the sales tax revenue breakdown by industry. And as you can see, the retail trade accounts for 35% of our sales tax revenue, followed by leisure and hospitality, which includes restaurant, accommodation and food services, arts, entertainment, and recreation, accounting for 13%. And our base industries such as the mining, oil and gas, manufacturing, they account for around 10% of the sales tax revenue. And here is the sales tax revenue within the retail sector. And as you can see, the general merchandise accounts for around 19% of that sales tax revenue coming from the retail industry, followed by food and beverage, building materials, and clothing stores. So that's pre-COVID-19, and let's see what the data tells about post-COVID-19. So as I said, like the COVID-19 disruption caused business closures, stay-home orders were issued, and there were also social distancing orders. That has impacted the local businesses, which in turn resulted in impact of the sales and job losses, and that in turn has impacted the sales tax revenue that local jurisdictions collect based on the sales. So, and here is some data from the Google, and this is, so they are tracking the travel data from February 16th to March 29th. And as you can see, the moment the stay-home orders were issued, the travel related to retail and recreation was down by 45%, and the groceries and pharmacy was down by 23%. But you can see that it peaked before, like we went into the stay-home orders. People were going to the grocery stores and buying up the supplies. So you can see the peak here, and then it went down. Similarly, travel to parks is down, as well as transit stations, workplaces, and residential. You see an increase in 13%, and this is mainly because of the food pickups and people ordering online for groceries and other supplies. So that is resulting in increase in travel related to residential. And Google has recently updated this data, and this one is looking at travel between May 22nd to July 3rd. And as you can see, we have after April, the stay-home orders were lifted, and we see that there's some increase in the retail and recreation compared to previous time, as well as there's an increase in groceries is 7%, as well as people are going to the parks, because right now still the fitness centers, the gyms, and all those things are still closed. So people are going for walk and bikes. So we see an increase in that travel pattern. And similarly, the transit is still down, workplace commute is down as well. But again, we see an increase in residential. People are still ordering supplies from home online. Again, so this data is coming from 1010 data. This is a data analytics company, and they have surveyed around 5 million US consumers using their debit card and credit card access. And as you can see, the moment we went into the stay-home orders, the grocery store sales or spending in grocery has increased significantly, around 100%, as well as increase in pharmacy, wholesale such as Costco, Sam's Club, and big box retailers. And then it eventually came back down. And however, we still see that the grocery is up relatively. And this is with respect to the retail. And again, you can see a peak in office sales, and this is because of most of the people are working from home, and also schools. The kids are like doing virtual online classes. So people went to the stores to buy supplies related to books or pens or all those things. And as you can see, that resulted in an increase in spending in those stores. Related compared to appraisal, it went down around by 75% because people are not going to the stores to buy clothes, which are probably not a necessary thing right now. And this is related to the restaurants. And again, you can see since the stay-home orders were issued, the travel spending to fast food and casual dining has decreased significantly. And on the chart here, we see that the food delivery has increased significantly, like almost 500%. So again, people are, instead of going to the stores, people are ordering groceries and food from home. And this is related to the travel. And again, you can see travel is all went down by more than 100%. So that gives you a picture of what we went through the last few months. And here is some data from the Texas Comptroller Office that kind of provides you the evidence of what has happened in the last few months. And so that the peaks you look at here are mostly related to December sales tax, and that's because that's a holiday season. And however, in December 25, we see a decline compared to December 2014, and that's because energy industry was down. And then it went back up from 2017 and 2018 and 2019. It was collected around $269 million in December. Similarly, the troughs during the historically, we can see that February was the month that we see the lowest sales tax collections. And however, we see that for 2017, it was August, and that is because of Hurricane Harvey hit our region in August. That's why the sales are down during that month. So we have received data for April 2020, and the sales tax revenue collected for that month, which was under stay-home orders, was $175 million. And today, I noticed that the Texas Comptroller Office has issued data for May, and I didn't get a chance to update this slide in the meantime. But I had just looked at the Houston data, and it seems like the sales tax for Houston are down by 13% compared to the same time previous year. So we still see a decline in sales tax revenues. So here I'm just going to show the 4 months of sales tax collections for the region, comparing 2018 with 2019. And as you can see for 2019, beginning February, when we heard about the COVID-19, the sales tax collections went down. And in March, it was down by -6%. And in April, it was down by 11%. But actually, if you combine what would have been an increase if there was no COVID-19, we would have seen at least like 7% increase in sales tax compared to the previous year. So if you combine that with the loss that actually happened, so we see that the sales tax revenue was actually lost by 18%, which is equal to $31 million in April. And again, we can get the same data by comparing the difference between February and April. So as I indicated previously, February was the lowest month for sales tax collections. And here I'm comparing the growth from February to April for the past few years. And for 2018, we see an increase in 15 million. For 2019, we see an increase in 20 million. And if there was no COVID-19, we would have probably seen around 25 million. But because of COVID-19, we see a loss of 4 million. So if we combine the 25 million and 4 million, it is kind of similar to around $30 million loss. So that's what the actual data provides. So to measure the impact of the future, we have adapted a version that was developed by Sandag, our COG, similar to H-GAC. It is a COG for San Diego region. And they have developed sales tax forecast for their sales tax revenue. And it includes 3 assumptions: the length of disruption, depth of recession, and recovery shape. So for the length of disruption, we assume that the length of disruption will be somewhere between 2 months to 6 months. And we have already seen 4 months of disruption. So what we are saying is maybe 2 more months, it will be very bad. And depth of recession could be mild, moderate, and severe. And this is based on some historic recessions like the 2008 and 1991 recession. And the shapes are like shapes of recovery are V, V long, U, and U long. So here are some of our assumptions on the impact of the sales by industry. And for example, if you look at leisure and hospitality, we are seeing that during the first column represents the COVID-19 impacts on sales for the first 3 months, which is March, April, and June, whereas the second column indicates the COVID-19 impacts for the 4th, 5th, and the 6th month, which is July, August, and September. So for the first 3 months, we are saying that the leisure and hospitality sales will be down by 50%, and in the next 3 months, it will be down by 20%. But you can see an increase in sales in non-store or other retailers, which are mainly like Amazon or Walmart, like online shopping. And you can also see increase in health and personal care like CVS and Walgreens. So these are our assumptions, and we usually update these assumptions based on the actual data we see from the controller's office. So based on the assumptions, here are some of our scenarios. So total we get around 40 scenarios, but right now I'm only showing around 8 scenarios. So if it was just only COVID-19 and if there was no recession, so we'll see that we will come back to the baseline by next year. However, if there was any recession involved, then it will be a longer recovery. And the greatest recession would be a severe U-long curve with 6 months of disruption. So we'll see that we'll come back to the baseline by around 2030. So these are some of our scenarios. And here again, we show those 40 different scenarios. And for example, if we assume that it is a moderate V recession with a 4-month recovery and 4-month disruption, then we will see around a loss of $375 million over the next 10 years. So this is loss for the next 10 years. And this slide here shows the loss for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. And we just have the three scenarios here with the minimum impact, the medium impact, and the maximum impact. And the minimum impact, we are saying there will be a moderate V recession with 3 months of disruption. And for that, we see that the sales tax will be loss will be around $348 million in fiscal year 2020. And if it is much worse, then we'll see a loss of $613 million in sales tax revenue for the entire 13-county region. And similarly, we have, if the recession is very bad, we can also see losses in fiscal year 2021 as well. And here are the percentages. So we are seeing somewhere for fiscal year 2020, we are seeing somewhere around 14 to 24% loss. And for fiscal year 2021, we are seeing somewhere between 0 to 20%. So that is really significant, and it's going to impact the local jurisdiction's budget. So that's all I have, and please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sambidi. Really appreciate your sales tax presentation, as it's going to affect a lot of our local governments. Do we have any questions for Dr. Sambidi? I guess I have to unmute you. Hold on one second. Wendy, can you unmute everyone just to make sure anyone has a chance to ask a question?
Sure.
All right. Any questions for Dr. Sambidi? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Wendy, and thank you for bringing us to our regional plan for high-speed internet. You all received this in your inbox about a week ago, and we are ready with our draft regional plan for high-speed internet. The regional plan looks at how we can best deploy high-speed internet in the region and what are our strategies for doing so as the Gulf Coast Economic Development District. Wendy, next slide, please. We began our voyage with the looking at how to expand broadband in this region with our 2014 to 2018 Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. Some of you were around for that process, where we worked with our Great Region 2040 in gathering data from around the region regarding what is going on with our region economically. And one of the findings was that we need broadband in our region to be economically competitive. Based on that, we produced a 2018 report looking at where the gaps in high-speed internet were. Largely, the gaps in high-speed internet are in our lower economic income areas and also our rural areas. And one of the challenges we found is that the data on where internet was lacking wasn't that accurate. And so that was one of the key challenges for understanding where the gaps were. Based on that document, we developed our regional plan for high-speed internet that you have a draft of currently. Next slide, please, Wendy. The regional plan for high-speed internet has 3 recommendations, is that each individual locality develop a plan based on the Becoming Broadband Ready toolkit, which is really the best document and really the fundamental planning document out there for how to become broadband ready. One of the recommendations from that plan and our own plan is that each municipality develop a dig smart or a dig once policy, whereby they are installing conduit when they are opening up the street. So basically, one of the largest costs for developing broadband internet in our region is having to open up the street and install the physical infrastructure. And if you look at your CIP plan, for example, and see when you are going to be opening up the streets, you can develop a comprehensive plan for how you are going to lay the conduit that then private entities or a public-private partnership can then lay the fiber to build high-speed internet. Another recommendation came from the city of Mont Belvieu is that cities should update their building codes to require that new construction bring conduit from the street to the home, so that when the neighborhood is fiber ready or when there's again an internet service provider ready to lay fiber, you don't have the cost and the expense of taking the internet from the street to the home, and that these communities are broadband ready. Next slide, please, Wendy. We looked at a variety of technologies that are used in the region, including fiber, coaxial cable, satellite internet, DSL, and wireless internet. A lot of questions we get is, why can't we just wait for 5G? One of the issues with 5G is that it's going to require repeaters as close to every 100 yards in order to be effective. So we need to develop a more robust campaign to lay high-speed fiber throughout the region to make sure that we are addressing our economic development needs. Next slide, please. We have 3 case studies looking at how we can better develop broadband infrastructure. One of the case studies is for the Brazos Valley COG, our neighboring COG over in the Brenham-Bryan College Station area. And they developed a 320-mile fiber loop using federal funding that is going to serve as the backbone for the regional COG. We also looked at the city of El Campo and how they worked with a private provider to expand fiber in their community. And the city of Mont Belvieu's Mont Belvieu Link, which is previously mentioned, is the first public internet service provider in the state of Texas. And we look at how they went about expanding internet in their community. Next slide, please, Wendy. The final element of the plan lays out our best data that we have from Connected Nation on where high-speed internet is. We both look at the 25 and 100 megabit download speeds and how and where those speeds are, we display where those speeds are in those maps. This is the best data we have currently. We intended for this to be a living plan, and when we have updated data, we intend to make sure that these maps are updated as we get new data. Next slide. The Gulf Coast Economic Development District is going to continue to work in this space to expand broadband infrastructure. We're going to look at federal funding that's available, and we're going to continue to work to receive grants and provide support to other partners. Currently, we are partnering with Connected Nation to run surveys in Liberty, Walker, and Waller counties. Liberty, Walker, and Wharton counties to look at where and how to best expand internet in those rural counties. And we will continue working with those counties on expanding broadband infrastructure and all the rest of the Gulf Coast District region. It was one of our primary actions that's identified in our action plan and our comprehensive economic development strategy, and we will continue to move this ball forward as best we can. And with that, I'd like to open it up. Wendy, if you could unmute for any questions that we may have.
Sure. I can unmute. I'll just give everyone control to be able to unmute themselves.
Do we have any questions on our regional broadband plan?
Josh, this is.
Oh, I apologize. I think I accidentally muted you.
Josh, this is Andrew Van Chap. Quick question.
All right, barring no questions,
Josh,
Judge Roselle, I'm going to turn it back over to you for the next action item on the agenda, which would be to vote to approve.
Josh,
the
Andrew was speaking.
Broadband plan.
Josh, can you hear
me? Andrew had a question.
Josh, can you hear?
Andrew, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. So the question that I had is that a lot of the work that's been done on this report, which by the way looks great and is fairly comprehensive, but I think a missing element is that over the last 3 months, we've gone through some very unprecedented experiences where essentially most employees that were working from home, and that has highlighted a lot of gaps that probably aren't reflected in any of the data. And considering the fact that a lot more companies are now looking at changing some of their approach and at remote working, et cetera, you know, the dynamics around this may be very different going forward than what the data may suggest. And so I just wanted to flag that as an issue. And also the other thing is that when I look at the document, it primarily looks at it from an economic development perspective. And there's a huge component that we've seen over the last 3 months around students and student access, and the lack of it is also impacting education attainment goals. So I just wanted to flag those two issues that have surfaced in the last 2-3 months due to COVID.
Andrew,
I apologize. I turned down my speaker so I wouldn't get the feedback, and I missed your question, but I did hear it, and you're absolutely right. This plan does look at it primarily through an economic development lens, but there are telehealth issues, there are education issues, there are issues throughout the region with broadband, especially in our rural and low-income areas. And the goal is really to work to expand the network as best we can using what we are able to for our economic development grants, and seeing how we can't leverage EDA funding and other funding streams to expand it. But I think you have very good points about the importance of those other elements and how important broadband is for our communities in general.
And just to add to that, the final point that I would make is the importance also of partnerships with the private sector, the education sector, across the board. And you know, if there is a way for us to consider that the report and the proposal we have in front of us incorporates that and is included in some of those priorities, I think that would be good to understand and appreciate.
I couldn't agree more, and we are going to continue to encourage partnerships. We are currently working with Waller County to look how they can partner with their electrical co-op, the San Bernard Electric Co-op, to do a public-private partnership to expand broadband in their area using the telephone lines, the electrical lines that the co-op already owns. So we're going to continue to expand how we can function in public-private partnerships, and what also local governments can do in kind of the Mount Bellevue arena in terms of how being their own internet service providers or contracting that out. So we will continue to work with communities in those arenas.
Communities and companies and others that have skin in the game, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Josh, this is Mike. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I want to, in regard to Andrew's comments, make a gentle suggestion that if you could summarize that, and I'm specifically thinking about the students' access and the other things also, and put in some kind of a note in this strategy, something, you know, just it doesn't have to be, you know, a page long, just a short paragraph to that. Also, I have a question. Like for Waller County, what we're doing down there, who are we working with on that specifically? The second question is, what do we have in place for follow-up when this report goes out, to keep track on it and kind of see what's happening?
Yes, sir, Judge. We are working with Judge Duhan on our Waller County efforts, and right now those are kind of open and exploratory at this point. And we definitely accept that, you know, the comments that we can add to this document, a brief section about the importance of telemedicine and remote education during these COVID-19 times.
Okay. What about follow-up?
as I mentioned, we are going to continue to update the document, and it's going to serve as a living document as we get new data. And as information in terms of broadband service changes, we will continue to update. And as we have new learnings, we will continue to update this document, and we intend for it to be a living plan.
Okay. Would it be too, I guess, personnel extensive to follow up personally with all of our counties? I understand that we update this and we send it back out, but I guess where I'm getting to, and it may not be possible with the personnel that we have, but I'm just thinking about people visiting these areas and seeing, you know, what are their needs, etc., as follow-up. Make sure that they understand what we're trying to do.
Yes, sir, Judge. We will continue to work with our local governments and private companies, and when they approach us and need an opportunity or looking for technical assistance, we will provide ongoing technical assistance to the region to the best of our ability and connect them to the resources available to make sure that they are able to do as much work locally as possible as expanding out the broadband network.
Okay. Any other questions?
Judge, I move to approve the report with the addendum you mentioned, if that's a proper step to take now.
It is. Do I hear a second?
This is Gary. I second the motion.
Further discussion? If I hear none, and those voting no, state at this time. I hear none, so motion passes. We go to action item number 7. Approve regional economic interest, private sector, GCEDD board nominations. At this time,
Thank you, Judge. We
do you want to
have
handle that?
several nominations for regional economic interests and private business interests, as you noted from our bylaws. We have up for renomination Judge Roselle, representing private interests, Chad Burke, representing the Economic Alliance of Houston Port Region, John Isom, representing Waller Economic Development Corporation, Guy Robert Jackson, representing the Gulf Coast Workforce Board, Marlon Mitchell, representing Houston Business Development Incorporated, Danielle Shiner, representing Greater Conroe Economic Development Council. And we need a recommendation or a nomination on reappointing those members.
This is Judge Roselle. I move that we nominate the ones just stated.
Second.
Is there a second?
Yes, this is BJ Simon, second.
Okay. Further discussion? Those voting against the motion, state now. I hear none. Motion passes.
Thank you, Judge Roselle. The next item is to approve our 2020-2021 Executive Committee roster. We have 5 elements or 5 open positions on the current roster. We have President, Vice President, Secretary, Assistant Secretary, and Treasurer. Assistant Secretary and Treasurer are vacant.
Okay, can I add something before you go further?
Absolutely, Judge Roselle.
Okay, on the vacant positions, we have, I think it's the Assistant Secretary and Treasurer. And per our bylaws, I'd like to state what the responsibilities and duties are. In section 7 on page 6, our Assistant Secretary shall perform the duties if the secretary in his or her absence. Section 8, the treasurer shall be responsible for reports to the board concerning the financial affairs of the district. He or she shall perform such other duties as the board may from time to time prescribe. That's for the two that are unfilled at this time. Turn it back over to you, Josh.
Thank you, Judge. Do we have a nomination for president?
This is BJ Simon. I nominate Judge Rozelle to remain and continue as president.
Do we have a second?
This is Andrew, I second.
Do we have those voting negative on President Rozelle? Hearing none. President Rozelle, you are again the president of the Gulf Coast Economic Development District Board for the 2021 Executive Committee session. Do I hear a nomination for vice president?
I nominate BJ Simon. BJ, this is Judge Rozelle.
Do I hear a second?
This is Gary, I second.
Thank you, Gary. If anyone would like to vote against BJ Simon as vice president, please speak now. Hearing no one, we accept BJ Simon as vice president for the 2021 executive session. Moving on, secretary, do we have a nomination?
This is BJ Simon. I nominate Guy Robert Jackson to continue as secretary.
This Judge Rozelle, I second.
Do we have anyone who would vote against Guy Robert Jackson as our secretary? Hearing no objections, we will move on to the position of assistant secretary. I received an email nomination from Nick Klein.
I nominate Andrew Van Chow.
And Nick Finan seconds that nomination. Do we have any objections to Andrew Van Chow serving as Assistant Secretary of the GCEDD? All right, Andrew, thank you, and welcome to our Executive Committee.
Thank you.
Treasurer, do we have a treasurer nomination? Please feel free to nominate yourself.
Josh, could you add anything else to the day-to-day work or meeting-to-meeting work that the treasurer would have to do?
The treasurer, we would ask that they would review our district financial reports and our RLF reports ahead of our committee meetings. It's not a heavy lift, so I would encourage a nomination.
And also, I think another clarification is that if an executive committee member is so inclined, could they take on both roles, two roles, or is there a limit?
We would prefer to have a treasurer serve as the treasurer role, if possible. I'd have to take a deeper dive into the bylaws, but it would be much cleaner if we could have someone nominate themselves to serve as treasurer. If not, we will take it to the next October board meeting. Do I have any nominations? All right, barring no nominations, we will bring the treasurer position forward to the October board meeting. And we have approved our executive committee minus the vacancy for the treasurer position. Other business and announcements. We do have an announcement, or we do have some other business. Jillian, are you on the line?
I am, Josh. Can you hear me?
Hear you great.
Excellent. Thank you. Gentlemen and members of the district, this is Jillian Donato. I'm new to the agency and I'm a senior planner working alongside Josh and the rest of my colleagues on several economic development efforts. One of them being what I'm here to announce today, which is part of a launch of our own economic recovery efforts for the region. And that involves making some changes to the current business retention and recovery survey that's currently online right now. What we've learned from the survey and our own data analyses across the agency, which you heard a lot about today, is that there are different parts of the region experiencing different levels of impact for different industries, and a lot of what you all mentioned today across education and healthcare, telemedicine, things like that. The survey is fairly broad, but we are going to be using that to probe deeper and to make a more robust survey that'll be relaunched here shortly. And I'm just making sure to announce it once again so that when we send out emails regarding that, you guys can re-engage with those questions. And then you will also be likely hearing from us to make sure that we get a representative set of responses. So I'll be working with Josh and another colleague of ours, Sarah Torrenson, to make sure that we hear from you all so that we can then design some really proactive services around delivery of resources and updates on access to funding, strategic advisory response, and long-term recovery planning. So please be on the lookout for those emails, and you'll be hearing from us in the near future as we start to directly engage with some of these issues that are affecting different counties and parts of the region. That's it. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Jillian.
I have a comment before we adjourn. I'd like to thank Josh and all of the staff at H-GAC for the work that they do to promote economic development in this district. Also, I'd like to welcome Andrew to Executive Committee. No, he'll be a worker in there and speaking up on a lot of the different issues. And I'd also like to thank all of the directors throughout this district for the time they put in, the work they put in, especially for the time we're going through right now. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Josh.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge. Do we have any additional comments or other business or announcements? Barring that, we will adjourn, and I apologize for the technology issues we had today. We will look forward to resolving those at our October meeting, and be sure to email you out the link to the slides and the recording when we post them. Thank you all for your patience, and we appreciate all your efforts to further economic development during these challenging times. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me with any questions. You can email me at joshua.owens@h-gac.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Have
Josh.
a safe weekend.
Everyone be safe.
Thanks, Josh.